The truth is, when you are reinventing yourself, the new you can't really survive contact with your old life without those boundaries. That's what helps like solidify this reinvention, the new choices that we're making for ourselves.
We make up so many rules for ourselves. Why do things just to be polite? I know for myself, I do so many things that I shouldn't have done just because I didn't want to be rude to that person.
Boundaries go to the wind. After a few drinks, people call that, "Oh, that's, me loosening up." And I'm like, "Oh, that's you making a decision you would have never made if you hadn't had this substance."
I think boundaries are what will solidify who you become at the end of your reinvention. I mean, and not that there's ever an end of the reinvention, but this
Yeah.
version of you.
A spiritual millionaire, and I think you can absolutely be an incredibly good person and enjoy the finer things of life. I think that's what we're here to do.
I am born goddess, going
Welcome to Going Goddess, the podcast where empowerment meets embodiment and divine feminine energy leads the way.
We're your hosts. I'm Silver Luna.
And Cherry, your chief empowerment officers and cosmic hype girls, here to remind you that your magic is not up for debate.
Every week, we're bringing real talk, rituals, and rising woman energy straight to you. Whether you're just soft launching your inner goddess journey or you're leading a full-on revolution, you belong here.
Let's go, Goddess.
Reinvention without boundaries collapses back into the old you.
Hot take. Boundaries start with you, not other people. Hey, goddesses, welcome back to another episode of Going Goddess. I'm Cherry.
And I'm Silver Luna. And tonight we're on our 4th episode of our Reinvention Series. First episode, we talked about body mods and radical self-expression. And then we went on to talk about reinvention, the art of reinventing ourselves from the inside out. And then last week, we talked about living that reinvention. So tonight, we're going to talk about the boundaries within the reinvention, because that might be the most important part.
Yes, I so agree. We're going to talk about the internal boundaries that you have with yourself first, what they sound like, what to do when they get tested by yourself and other people, and the importance of having boundaries with the people closest to you and everyone else. Just boundaries are important, guys. So we hope that you guys reflect throughout the episode on what your honest relationship is with the word boundaries. And Silver, I'd like to throw that to you. What is your relationship with the word boundary?
Now it's very healthy. In the past, not so much. I didn't used to protect myself from negative energies or really anything that wasn't good for me. I would usually just accept. So I used to be very much a yes person, and that I would say yes to pretty much anything that was offered to me because I like to enjoy experiences. I like to have friends. And in the past, before my glow up, before my goddess awakening, didn't I wasn't super outgoing, and I didn't try to put myself out there very much. I was very shy and to myself. So the yes and the lack of boundaries came a lot from my being sheltered and my lack of socialization. So now my boundaries have come as I've really recognized just the abundance that I've brought into my life since my goddess awakening and since becoming myself. And now I can see that I can bring in all of the wonderful things to myself, but now I have to have those boundaries to keep the bad out and to prevent the bad actors from getting in to begin with.
Yeah. It's amazing how boundaries evolve in our relationships with the boundaries evolve like as we get older we realize like what is sacred, what's worth protecting. And I so resonate with that because I definitely was someone like, oh, like, yeah, also a yes girl. Like, I'm down for anything and no one can hurt me. And like, everything just rolls off my back. So, like, what's a boundary? Like, yeah, you can come over anytime. I'll say yes to anything. Like, um, That was definitely me at the beginning when I, like, yeah, what broke free from being sheltered, and I'm on that pendulum swing to, like, party girl, and then even in the times where I was thinking I was setting up boundaries for myself, like, I look back and I'm like, "Baby girl, you thought that was a boundary, okay." Um, yeah, but the truth is, like, when you are reinventing yourself, the new you can't really survive contact with your old life without those boundaries. That's what helps, like, solidify this reinvention, the new choices that we're making for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you watched yourself slip back to an old version of yourself because you didn't protect your new version's boundaries?
In the past, definitely, like, again, I still laugh at not laugh, I have a lot of compassion for all the versions of me who still wanted to be a life coach and a leader and was just continually making choices not aligned with that reality and what that lifestyle actually looks like. So it's like during the week, I'm like eating well and going to the gym and taking care of my body and like I'm like this health and fitness girl, but I had no boundaries around that and protecting all of that work I was doing on the weekends. And so I would just party and party and stay up all night and eat terrible food and do all the things. And no one would have looked at me and thought, "Oh, that's a girl that's really helping people live their best lives." And at that time, like, I really wasn't, but I so desperately wanted to be that person, and I didn't understand that disconnect of, like, no, like, when you hold an identity, you protect it and protect your energy. That's another one where I didn't protect my energy because I thought it was more important for me to be the yes girl or be the person that people could rely on, either for help or to have a good time with. And so I would sacrifice like my sleep or yeah, my rest time with even family so that I could be this version of like fun party girl and yeah, and just like so not understanding that disconnect there. So now I can look back and see, oh, you kept slipping back into those patterns because you weren't protecting the work that you were doing or your energy or your time and who you wanted to be. Um, yeah.
Oh, man, that's so good. I can resonate with all of that as well, and not protecting the boundary of doing the work and being good throughout the week, and then being bad on the weekends. I remember doing a boot camp whenever I was, like, in my early 20s, and the whole idea behind the boot camp was that if you went to the classes, you didn't have to pay for it, but if you missed the class, you had to pay for it. So it's $20 per class that you missed, and you couldn't return to class until you paid. And it was at a
Mm.
church, so it was kinda like, they didn't have to charge you, but it was your punishment, and if you're late, you had to do burpees. But the reason I went to the boot camp was because, like, I would be able to work out during the week, and then I could easily just drink wine the rest of the weekend and the nights, and it was always a joke at the time that I work out so I can drink more wine, but it really wasn't that much of a joke. And now I'm like, "Man, whew, glad we escaped that."
Literally. I told someone the other day when we are talking about alcohol because that is like so many of the places where I abandoned myself had to do with alcohol. And like, because, not to, like, get on my soapbox, but, like, from the jump, it's a group 1 carcinogen. It spikes your cortisol. It deregulates your nervous system from 1 drink. And so, like, to think that I was doing any of anything good for myself and then having a glass of wine every night, I'm, like, unraveling all of the I just did all this meditation, but now I'm gonna go, like, spike my cortisol real quick, like, don't mind me. And it's so pervasive and it's so, like, you see, like, yoga and mimosas and, like, within wellness culture even, there's still so much around, like, drinking moderately, and it's like, well, as of 2023, the World Health Organization did come out with a report that no amount of alcohol is actually, like, at any level, any amount of alcohol is poisonous to your body. Like that just straight up. There are no redeeming benefits for it. And so to have escaped it, the hold that it had on my life, I told someone the other day, I was like, I feel like I've been raptured. Like I feel like I'm living in an entirely different world because you see how, yeah, pervasive, like, this hold that this thing has on so many people without them even realizing that their life is revolving around it. Even if you're, once or twice a week, there's still so much of yourself that you're numbing out that you're not, like, being present with, or you're not dealing with. And then let's say you're like, we were weekend warriors, that's 48 hours of being disconnected from ourselves, and then how many days of recovery and all of that time lost on life? Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
So much. So much.
yeah, alcohol would, and not to mention that it, like, literally dissolves boundaries, like, literally, like, physically, and, like, with yourself, and spiritually, and mentally, emotionally, like, boundaries go, like, to the wind after a few drinks. People call that, "Oh, that's, me loosening up," and I'm like, "Oh, that's you making a decision you would have never made if you hadn't had this substance." Specifically
Exactly.
this substance. Like, we know that, like, if we eat a pound of chocolate cake, like, it's not good for us, but we're also not losing our inhibitions on, like, who we would hang out with or things that we would do that could, like, wreck our lives, like driving, impaired or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think alcohol is the ultimate gateway drug.
Yes. I so agree. I so agree, and even in this book that I'm reading that's, like, helping me rewire my relationship with sugar, and, like, listeners, like, y'all don't wanna know Cherry's sugar addiction, which has gotten so much better, I will say. But even in that, there's, like, paragraphs where they're talking about, well, and you'll want to, you know, be mindful about your alcohol intake. And it's like, this is an entire book about removing refined sugar, but you're going to allow for some alcohol. I'm like, even in health culture, it's still all of these concessions are made for people to have it moderately when there is no moderate amount, that there's no amount that won't poison you to some extent.
Mhm.
And that's just like, I know that just is a telltale for how deep the hold alcohol has on our society.
Mhm. What's there? It's bad.
Yeah. Not that this is about alcohol, but if you wanna really uphold your boundaries, I invite you removing that.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably my biggest struggle is drinking alcohol was that's whenever my boundaries like you said, that's whenever the boundaries would slip away. That's whenever I would lose the new version of me that I was trying to create and why I had to go.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Immediately. I agree. So, what is the cost when there's no boundary during reinvention? Like, what gets lost for you? Or what has gone lost?
I think our worth, a little bit of our worth, we start to me, I start to feel like I've diminished what my own word to myself is worth. So I have made myself a promise that I was going to do better in one aspect of my life or another, and then for some reason I don't do it, then I lose a little bit of trust that I can actually accomplish the things that I say I'm going to. It's different than setting a goal too high. It's a different kind of like letdown because you think that you can do something or you know you can do something and then you don't.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. You're absolutely right that it comes down to, like, that's us telling ourselves that we're not worthy of holding that boundary, of keeping promises to ourselves, or of drawing a line in the sand, and or, drawing a line and saying, "No, this is my boundary," and, "No, you can't cross it." And so when we let someone cross that boundary, or we cross it ourselves, we tell ourselves that we're not worthy of that standard, and that's such a lie. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, I so agree
'Cause
with you on that.
we know in our right mind or in a time when we feel more at peace with ourselves that we are worth that boundary because we make that boundary to begin with. When we were disrespected to begin with, that's when we made that boundary, so why allow it now?
Yeah.
It's only gonna keep happening or getting worse, especially if you just ignore it.
Mm, yes. Yeah, how many times do we just let people, "Oh, yeah, I felt that way, but it's okay." Like,
Mhm. Which I am trying to actively work against whenever people talk bad about somebody else. And not necessarily like they're talking badly about their friend, just in general about a person, for no reason. So, for example, yesterday I went to a party and there was a girl that I was talking to about somebody else that I had been talking to at the party. And I mentioned that I thought that it was somebody's partner. And the girl that I was talking to thought that I didn't like her. And so her first reaction was, "What? She's not even that pretty." And I didn't at first I was like, "Okay, I could just agree with it, just move on." But I decided I didn't say she is pretty or something like, to counteract it, but I said, "I don't know. I think she's fine. She's great." And then she moved on and it was definitely a different I could tell that it stopped her for a second and she was taken aback that I didn't just agree with her. Um, and in the past, I think I would have just easily been like, "Okay, yeah," and agreed with her, but instead I was like, "No, I don't know about that," and then continued on with my story. So
yeah,
that's a boundary that I think the cost of that is letting people talk badly about other people, to you. They're going to do that about you to other people. The
right.
cost of that is eventually going to be your friendship with that person somewhere down the line.
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm so glad that you did that, and I think that's so important and can be such an edgy thing to do, to, disagree with someone and call them out and kind of it's not, like, even a slap on the wrist, but that's how people, experience it, and I'm sure that we'll get to, how people experience boundaries later on in the episode, but, yeah, that's keeping your energy and, your aura and, clear and clean, and it's like, "No, we're not gonna talk about other people like that around me," and I love that so much, and I have a friend, it's a mutual friend of ours, and he would say stuff like that, "No, you don't talk like that around G and Cherry. They don't that's not the kind of deal that they have, that's not what they're interested in," and that felt really good to have someone know that, about us, and I know that to be true about you, you will call the people out on the or not even call them out, but just say, "No, I don't agree with that. It doesn't have to be like that," and, just moving on, and those moments stick with people, I think for me, anytime that that's happened for me, I'm like, "Oh, I just got called to a higher standard," and I love that. I know not that's not always how people feel about it, but I think those it's so important to do that, especially if we call ourselves goddesses, like, we hold ourselves and the people around us to those higher standards and to that boundary of, "You're not gonna come here and just, spread shit." No. We're
Exactly.
spreading flowers over here. That's what we do. Yeah.
Exactly. If we're a goddess in progress, then the goal is always to lift up other women. So to demean them behind their backs because we don't know them is not uplifting. And I agree. I think it's really important not to allow them to just continue to talk that way. And also she did take it as a slap on the wrist, I think,
Mhm.
but in a good way. And we still had an amazing time afterwards. So I'm happy to see other women being able to step up to the higher good and raise the bar a little bit.
Yeah, totally. Holding each other accountable. I love that.
Mhm.
And something I think is interesting as we talk about reinvention, and there's so many people are talking about becoming and stepping into your best self, and it's all of this hard work that you're doing with yourself, but, we really don't hear people talk about boundaries as a part of reinvention. Um Why do you think that is? That's part of the reinvention instead of just, after it, "Oh, that's who she is now," but I think along the way, as we're learning these things, I think it needs to be part of the process.
I agree. I think boundaries are I mean, they are what will solidify who you become at the end of your reinvention. I mean, and not that there's ever an end of the reinvention, but this
Yeah.
version of you, that will create your new outline, your new, guidelines that you go by. So I agree that it should be, but I also think maybe for me, the part of the reason I didn't series as much during which I guess we did talk about it in, like, episode 3 or something like that. But a lot of it is recognizing finding the ability to, like, recognize whenever the boundaries have been made and when they've been crossed because everything is still so new, and you're
Mm,
trying on new outfits of characters, and you're trying to find identities and trying to learn what feels good and what doesn't feel good, so whenever you don't know what feels good, you don't know what the boundary is until it's either come close to crossing it or you just for sure know that that's something you'd never be interested in.
totally. Yeah, I really love that where it's like, maybe, like, build them up pretty high, and then you can see, like, where it all, like, shakes out and trying new boundaries on because as we choose, like, new versions of ourselves or choose new behaviors and make new choices, it does require those new boundaries to protect us, like, in those moments, and also, like, to keep your nervous system safe, like, um, when I was when I first removed alcohol from my life, my boundary was, "I'm not gonna go to bars." I don't know what that's gonna be like for me, I don't not that I felt like I was gonna need to drink, but, like, was it going to like, piss me off and be like, "Oh, I'm really not having fun," and, like, was it gonna send me into a spiral? And so, like, that was just a boundary, like, I set for myself, and people would invite me, and it's like, "Nope, like, I'm good." And then as it got easier for me and I started rewiring, like, my brain to be able to enjoy things without alcohol, which y'all, like, that's a real part of it. Um, it was like, "Okay, I'll go," and my boundary is, I want there to be mocktails at that bar. Like, I'm not gonna go and just drink soda water, because for me, a big part of the drinking was that luxury kind of aspect to it, and then maybe it was like, I'll go, but I'll only spend 15 minutes, and just trying on these new boundaries of, like, what feels good before I realized, like, "Oh, baby girl, you just, like, didn't you're just not having a good time at certain places if there isn't dancing." Like, now you go out to dance or to do karaoke or to, like, spend time with specific people, and then it was also seeing where I unintentionally crossed all these boundaries when I was drinking and hanging out with people that I would never hang out with now. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"This is not a good time." And so, yeah, like, new boundaries will pop up, but sometimes it's important to set the boundaries that just make you feel really safe and know that you can change your boundaries at any time, and I think that part is important too, to have grace for yourself, to, like, be able to adjust your boundaries and know why you're adjusting those boundaries. Is it to people please? Is it to fit into a version that someone else wants you to be? Or is it because you feel safe to show up in a new way?
Yes. There's so many reasons why we put new boundaries in place, and it is really just about checking in with yourself and making sure that those are the boundaries that are comfortable with you, because if it's too far, it's you're not going to know until it's too far, and if it's not far enough, then you're probably not going to feel satiated in whatever that aspect of your life is. If your boundaries are too rigid, you're not going to be able to explore and, experiment with different things and different tries. Um,
Mhm.
I know for myself, a big boundary, when it comes to, like, relationships is, like I said, not hanging out with people that will talk badly about other people to you. That's number 1, first and foremost. Um, I actually one of my best friends in Oklahoma, whenever we were about to, um well, we had gone through our big friendship breakup, and then the best friend that I had befriended after that, I had been talking to them about the guy that was grooming me, basically trying to groom me to be in their relationship with his wife. Um,
Mm.
I was talking to this new friend about it, and she was also that had just joined the group and told them about all of the history with this person and what Zeus knew about them in the past, and all this time they were going to their parties and coming back to our house and hanging out with us and talking and telling us what was going on and, kinda like we were just gossiping, and I thought that it's because they were my best friend, and then I found out a few months later that they had been doing that the whole time to the rest of their friends and been talking about us to their other friends.
Ugh.
because somebody had come to us and asked us about a story and asked me if it was true and said that they had told them that. And I was like, "How do you even know about the original story? Like, this is a falsehood, what you brought to me, but how do you even know about the original situation?" And
Yeah.
then I found out that they were telling them, and I actually confronted that friend, because later on they hurt my feelings really bad, even worse, and another story that I've actually told on the pod. But I confronted them about it and I said, um, "You've been talking trash to other people about me and Zeus whenever I thought that we were best friends, and that's really hurtful." And they said that they have a personality where they have to talk things out. That's how they can comprehend and process things. And so they had to talk it out with their other friends to make sure that they are understanding the situation correctly.
It's
I was
called
like,
therapy.
"Oh."
Go to therapy. Pay
Mm.
for a therapist.
They were in in school, in grad school, finishing their masters for psychology.
So no excuses. Wow. And you don't have to be, in grad school for psychology to not have an excuse to not talk shit about people. I mean,
Yeah,
geez Louise.
yeah.
That's so gnarly. I'm sorry that happened to you. So, what is an internal boundary you set this year that nobody else even knew about or was like a new boundary for you?
Mm, so this year, a new boundary that I have recently set, because I didn't realize that it was really happening that much until recently. But a new boundary that I've set with myself is not to allow people to try to take advantage of me, for my time, my resources, my energy. And to expand upon that, I mean, I've been, as you know, I do a lot of things, a lot of hobbies. And a lot of that is also community building. So, for example, with like modeling, I'm trying to build a network of photographers and models that I can call on at any time if we want to do some kind of creative set. And so I've created a little notepad of all of the different types of shoots that I want to do, the themes. And now I'm trying to create a list of who I would want in those shoots with me. So recently, I've been inviting people to go to these shoots, and of course, I've never put together any kind of event for modeling before, so I'm still fairly new to it. But I did invite a friend that I had recently had a little bit of a falling out with. We'd had a bit of an argument because they thought I felt like they were taking advantage of me during an event that we were supposed to be working together, and then they thought that I was taking advantage of them. And long story short, we had a conversation about it, and we ended up doing the event together, and it was kind of like we made it work, but it was obviously like we were still pretty like not on the best terms. At one point, she told like kind of an inappropriate story to Zeus, my husband, while I was gone, which I completely forgot about until after like this last situation. But anyway, so that was in March, and we're now in June. Well, or I guess the shoot was in May. Well, I have been inviting her to go to different things. I haven't heard from her. She's been telling me that she's too busy, and I just assume that she probably doesn't have any interest in really hanging out with me a whole lot since our falling out. And then I decided to do a shoot that I thought she might be interested in, and so I figured I would extend the olive branch one more time and ask if she wanted to come do this shoot with me, and along with a couple of other girls, and she was the only one that ended up showing up. Well, when she gets there, she passed me to go say hi to the house owner. Like, I told her hi, she said, "Hey," and then went straight to the homeowners, "Hey, my name is blah, blah, blah," and introduced herself, and then introduced herself to the photographer, and then was trying to, like, set stuff down, and then finally came over and said hi to me, and I went up to her and to give her a hug. Like, I was not that important, and then throughout the entire set, it was very evident that she was being very opportunistic, just, like, oohing and awing towards the photographer and the homeowner, not paying a lot of attention to me, talking about wanting to, um um, hire the photographer for future services, and the photographer does this for fun. It's not somebody that does this professionally because they need the money. They have a very good corporate job, and so they just have a lot of really good high quality camera gear, and they do
Mm.
this as a hobby. Along with the homeowner, he just has a lot of stuff and he likes to help models and he likes to help photographers, and so he has the space for it. So he allowed me to come over and shoot in his house, and with some of his stuff, and then the photographer has all of his own gear, and we all just do it for fun. But this friend came over, and as we're doing this shoot, she's consistently, repeatedly talking about how she loves these pictures, and she's gonna hire him, and she's gonna make sure all of her friends hire him for their fire shoots. And I'm sitting there like, "Girl, I just invited you. I am your friend. You're talking about outsourcing him to all of your other friends, not thinking about me at all." I kept
Yeah.
asking to do sets with her, and she kept putting it off, and she wanted to do this first, and she wanted to do that first, and wanted to get some headshots, that way she had it for her marketing materials. Completely blew me off until finally towards the end, I was like, "Do we wanna do a set together?" And she finally did wanna do one set. We did the last set together, and it was only for a few minutes, and while we were doing it, she got frustrated with me because I wasn't listening to her. So, it was just, like, one thing after the next, and I was like, "Okay, I don't think I wanna work with this person again." Like, I don't know that I even wanna be their friend after this because I just don't like, I thought that I was inviting them to do something fun together, and instead, it just ended up being them kissing the ass of the homeowner and the photographer. And then afterwards, before we left, she was trying to plan the next like, they were talking their sets, and I was like, "Yeah, we might." So she's trying to plan it. I was like, "If we do it, it'll be at this time." Um, and then after that, very communicative with me, started messaging me back, started liking my posts, started commenting on my posts, things that she has never done in the last 3 months. So it's very evident to me that the reason that she's doing this is because she wants more free shoots with me. And then literally the same week, that was on a Sunday. Friday, I see that she's doing another set with a bunch of other girls, with someone else. I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks for the invite." Not that I
Sucks.
expected it, but it's also just like, okay, I can tell it's very, very evident based on this whole situation that you're just an opportunist, and I don't need that kind of personality in my life. So the internal boundary that I have set is not to allow people to take advantage of me for their own personal gain.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, good for you for setting that boundary, and I'm sorry that that happened. That sucks. And it sucks when you feel like you're doing something kind for someone else and they just, like, walk all over it, and it's just not even just sounds like it's not even on her radar at all, like, and so it's a quick, like, measurement of, like, "Okay, and the boundary around this friend, skin tight, you're not crossing it," like,
Mhm. And that
ugh,
was the original argument too back in March. What led up to it was that every time we had hung out, it felt to me that it was for something for that person to gain something. And that was what I communicated to her, that, like, the last time like, every time we hang out, we're doing something that has some kind of, like, financial benefit, like, we're either taking model photos of your clothes, or we're doing this, or doing that, and then they pointed out to me that they came to visit me at a vending event, and I said, "Thank you, you're right, I totally forgot you did come to visit me, you came to support me that one time, but that one time," and still, it was all, like, a financial thing, it's like, we're
yeah,
vending, like,
yeah,
I wanna hang out just to hang out, not because you need some sort of support or assist along the way, and that's why I'm ultimately there. And
mhm,
then we just never could connect on that. She disagreed. She said that she didn't see it that way. I told her that to me, it felt like she was trying to take advantage of me. And so then once we had stopped talking in March, I was hoping that we could rectify it. And by inviting her to the photo shoot, that it would be good. But then it just proved it further solidified my findings. And I was like, okay, I see it. And I knew my intuition knew I didn't listen to it. I didn't that was a boundary that I had set not to let somebody walk all over me. That's something I'm trying to make sure I avoid, but I'm also trying to grow friends. And so I allowed that boundary to be crossed to allow this person into my life and in a last ditch effort to be their friend. And now I wish that I wouldn't have. So I'm not doing that again.
mm. Well, good for you for saying the hard thing too, of, like, "I feel like you're taking advantage of me." I feel like that's very edgy. That is a hard thing to say to people. And I think
Thank you.
sometimes we don't even realize it. Like, good for you for knowing yourself well enough and knowing, like, what you're up to even get to that point of, like, "She's taking advantage of me." I think a lot of times, like, when it's people that we wanna be friends with or even our friends, and especially our friends that we've had for a long time, that things have just been set up a certain way. There's just, like, this expectation that you're gonna do this thing for them or, like, whatever. It's really hard to be able to step back and see, Oh, no, this is they're not meeting me halfway. This is not equitable. This is very much like they just are used to taking advantage of me, and I'm used to just people pleasing them. And
Mhm.
that's a big part of the art of reinvention as well, and setting those new boundaries for ourselves. And then sometimes it comes up with like, ah, damn, I wanted to be friends with that person, put a lot of time and effort into them, and now I see like it's not for my highest good whatsoever. So good for you.
Thank you. That is the hardest part whenever you put in so much time into somebody and you don't want to waste all of that time and the energy and the relationship. After that, at that point, usually there's some kind of connection to them that you're going to have to eventually get rid of. Like that has to go to the wayside. That's not good energy for me.
Yeah. And I think there's another side of that too, because I I've been blessed with some just really incredible people in my life throughout my whole life, and I've been someone that certain people have just taken me under their wing, or they just want to treat me to things, and now I can kind of see, oh, that was love bombing with an expectation that I was going to be a certain kind of person for them. Um but it was really hard for me until I really like got us in progress and like claimed who I am to say no to those people because they did buy things for me or like showed up for me when I needed help. And so it's like I couldn't show up for them the way that they showed up for me, but I was so appreciative of everything that they did for me. Um and then when it came time to be like, okay, actually I need to choose something different for myself. I can't, like, keep going with this, like, friendship in the way that it's going on, even though it's been so beneficial for me, and I feel like I owe you a lot. Like, I have to make a decision to end this for me and, like, to make new choices, and that has been a really interesting and different place that I've had to set boundaries on and feel like and they could come back and say, "Well, I did all of these things for you." And I'm like, "Yes, and thank you so much." And I was not at a place in my life where I could have met you halfway, and you gave and gave of yourself so much for me, and I will always be grateful for that. And I'm not going to be in your debt because you were my friend and you were doing those things. And so like that's like the other side of like a boundary situation, that I think that's a hard one to get out of and to, like, be strong enough to be like, just because they gifted me all of these things doesn't mean that I have to change who I am or continue down this path with them until I feel like I've met a measure.
Any relationship that you have to feel obligated to be in that relationship with them, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, it's not a good one. If you
True.
feel like you are obligated to be their friend because of the things that they've done for you, then they're not a good friend. And
That's true.
I feel
Well, oh, go ahead.
I think whenever it comes I definitely hear you and what you're talking about, like, I have some of those friends. I definitely understand what you mean by feeling, like, obligated because somebody has given so much of their time or their effort to you, and so you feel like you owe them at least a little bit of something, like, some of your time. But I think one thing that I feel really grateful for the burning culture for is the gifting community, decommodification. It has opened me up to not just gifting in the sense of like physical objects that you give to somebody because you want to give them something. It's gifts of time, gifts of energy, gifts of your attention is finite, as we've discussed. And it's really important that we accept those gifts from people with appreciation. But whenever they're giving us too much because they have some other kind of gain that they want out of it, or they're not the right fit for us, but they really just want your attention, it's okay to say no.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And yeah, I think it wasn't like it didn't so there's definitely been people where it feels like they were doing things in order to get something, or there was an expectation. And then there was also someone that I can think of that just really enjoyed spending time with me, and I'm no longer in going to the same spaces and in the same rooms as that person or as those people. And so it's very confusing for them. Like, what do you mean? You just stopped doing that? And it's like but you can meet me over here in, like, this space, but that's not what they're into, and so that was, like, uncomfy to be like, it's not like they had this expectation, I'm just not living that lifestyle anymore, and will you still be my friend? And it's like, and if they, and you know what? I think that's it. If they don't accept who I am, in this, reinvented version of me making new choices, then absolutely right. Like, then they don't need to be in my life. So yeah, it is a
Yeah.
boundary. Hmm.
Yeah,
Good
no, I
one.
would consider that whenever you've outgrown somebody, that's definitely a growing pain. Where do you most often betray your own boundaries?
um, I think honestly, at this point in my life, it comes down to when I'm tired. Like, if I don't have the energy for something, then I can just be like, "Whatever." And I'm not in a whole lot of spaces, like, around people that I'm like, I don't if something doesn't feel good to me, I will leave. Like, I was in a dance class, and I didn't like the way the instructor was doing it. I was like, "We're doing too many jump squats. I'm not gonna be in this class anymore." I didn't feel like I needed to stay the whole class. I just, like, walked out. And as a dance instructor, a Zumba instructor, I feel like, would that hurt my feelings? But then it was also like, no, because if it's not for you, get out of here. Like, you don't owe me anything. And that that has been a big place of where I have thought like I owe someone something again, like we just talked about. And we make up these rules for ourselves. Like, maybe in the past I would have stayed in that class because what, I owe it to all the other women in there that are doing it, that we're all in this together, and it's like, "No, I didn't like it, so I'm leaving." But now it's like, "Oh, I have eaten so well all day, and I am," now it's like 8:30 and I didn't actually do a good job of making dinner, and so now I just want nachos, and I'm sitting on the couch, and instead of, like, doing my night routine, I fall asleep on the couch, and now I'm not gonna take my makeup off, and, like, that's where I'm not setting myself up for success, where I'm not holding boundaries for myself of, like, "No, you feel better when you take your makeup off, when you eat a good meal at a regular time or earlier in the day." And so if I'm not actually getting enough sleep or not resting enough throughout the day, that's really where my telltale signs are. That's where I betray boundaries for myself because I'm tired.
I can definitely relate to you. Like, God, that's definitely whenever I lose track of my boundaries too. It used to be the alcohol, but now that we've cut that out, I agree with you that it's lack of sleep or just exhaustion from any kind of situation. I
Oh, yeah.
mean, like the news is specifically exhausting so that it wears down your boundaries and you're suddenly okay with things. But I do want to highlight one thing that you said that I completely agree with and relate with, which is that we make so many rules for ourselves. It is so silly how many rules we make because there's a difference between rules and boundaries. Like their boundaries are
Yeah.
rules, right? They're like soft rules. Their boundaries are going to be those things that are variable because it's based upon your comfort. Rules are like no-goes
Yeah.
or like you can or can't do this.
Mm.
And we make up so many rules for ourselves. Like, why do things just to be polite? I know for myself, I do so many things that I shouldn't have done just because I didn't want to be rude to that person. I will listen to so many stories and then I walk away and I'm like, I just wasted 10 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
Why didn't I say something sooner? I should have said something 10 minutes ago.
Yes. Yes,
And it would have
exactly
helped
right.
them long term too. Like they could have known how boring their story was 10 minutes ago.
Yes. Or, like, not posting something, like, not celebrating yourself or not posting something because you don't know what someone else is gonna think about that, or I remember even, like, "Oh, I'm not gonna wear that because I don't know if that would make so and so." I think you and I had a conversation about this one time. "I'm not gonna wear this because I don't wanna make so and so uncomfortable," and it's like,
Mhm.
what, it's not our job. Like, it's actually not our job to make anyone comfortable. Now, it's certainly not our right to actively make people uncomfortable, like, like, strive for that, but, I mean, I don't know, unless you're, like, an artist, but then it's kind of, like, on the person that's, like, being uncomfortable, and it's like, what is that saying about you? So maybe curiosity. Anyways, I can go on a tangent on that one, but, like 'cause I love performance art, um, and that gets people to question, but yeah, that and today, there's been lot of energy around, like, be Delulu. The universe will meet you there. We are limitless. The possibilities are limitless because our souls are endless. And we have all of these limiting beliefs that are tied to like our worthiness or what we think we deserve or whatever that, yeah, we create these made up rules for ourselves. And I was talking to a woman the other day on a human design call, and she was like, "You know, I used to say, I don't care about money. Like, I don't need that. I'm not a material person." Like, she was like, "Because I thought that was what would make me a better person." And I thought, well, if I don't have the money and I say I don't care about the money, then does it actually matter? Instead of saying, no, I claim that and I do want to be a millionaire and I do want to do good things with my money and like build schools or like it doesn't even have to be that necessarily, but like the cap that she put on her life because she said she didn't care about money because she was afraid of not having money or what it would mean to say that she does want money and then maybe it's not there immediately. And it's like that's a made up story in your head that you have made so many choices based off of in your
Mhm.
life.
And perhaps judgment, her own judgment in her head, judging others that are materialistic and that want nice fancy things because she thinks that that's superficial or
Yes.
she's unworthy.
Yes, exactly. And unfortunately, we have a ton of terrible examples of people with a ton of money that are just awful. But also, there are people that have a lot of money that are very good and they use it for good things. And you can just check in with yourself. Like, as you continue to be abundant and multiply that abundance and magnetize abundance, I talk about that a lot. Like, can continue to check in with yourself. Well, where is your heart at on this? And I think you can absolutely be a spiritual millionaire, and I think you can absolutely be an incredibly good person and enjoy the finer things of life. I think that's what we're here to do is like the most that we can enjoy the finer things and share with others and be generous because it does all come back, you know? What you give
Mhm.
out comes back to you.
Exactly. And being generous and kind and forgiving with yourself. Because the
Mm,
better that you treat yourself, the better you're going to be able to treat others.
yes.
And by treating yourself better, I mean holding your boundaries, especially as your reinvented version of your new self. You're fragile sometimes. In the
Yeah.
beginning, especially, you're fragile, and those boundaries are fragile. So they might get crossed, but it's okay. And you can forgive yourself. Now, if they keep getting crossed, then maybe it's time for a deeper look into why we're crossing these boundaries repeatedly. What is the boundary and why is it so hard to keep? But if
Yes.
you don't keep those boundaries, then how are you planning to stay in the new version of yourself?
Yes. Oh, that's so true. Keeping the boundary with yourself is so important, and when we keep, like, breaking it, then we see that that's a pattern, and our patterns are attached to identity, so what old identity are you holding about yourself that you don't think you're worthy of holding that boundary? Bringing it back to the beginning of, like, talking about the worthiness, and when we cross our own boundaries or we let other people do that, that's us telling ourselves that we're not worthy of that higher standard. And so there have been times where it's like, if I go a lot of days without doing like my night routine, I'm like, baby girl, what part of you doesn't feel worthy of having great skin or having a night routine? Like, why aren't you holding that for yourself? And so, exactly like you said, go inward and do a little bit more work there. And then you know, that's where we can work with all of the incredible, like, tools and practitioners that we have that can help us identify those limiting or conflicting beliefs and rewire them. But it doesn't even have to you just start with creating boundaries and holding them for yourselves. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, Cherry, before we wrap up with our listeners, tell our listeners a little bit of what boundaries actually sound like. What are some good boundaries that you've set for yourself that you'd like to share?
Mm. Yeah, man, okay, I'm like, now I have a lot of boundaries, from the way, like, you talked about, like, what I'm willing to have conversations with people about or how they, like, speak to me. and how I speak to them and holding myself to a higher standard and holding the people around me to that, to what I need in order to show up as my full authentic self. And that really includes like having my morning practice. And maybe it looks different, from day to day, but having that time for myself where I check in and I regulate and I set my intentions. And like that is a non negotiable for me. And then throughout the day, if there are times where I'm tired or I need some space, knowing that I don't that's a boundary for me. If I can feel that I need to rest or I just need some time alone, then I say that, and thankfully, like, my husband's so great about that, and I work from home anyway, so it's, like, pretty easy, but being okay with, like, really saying no to things because I need extra rest, especially, like, as a projector, and that has felt so edgy because most of my life I've showed up as a generator, just, like, going, 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 and, okay, just more caffeine and more Adderall and more stimulants and all these things because I didn't wanna miss out on anything and because I felt like if I started to say no to things, then people wouldn't want me there, and that hasn't been the case at all. In fact, I've received more invitations to things the more that I am, like, really finessing my energy and understanding that, like, I need way more space and rest for myself. So, boundaries around my rest, non-negotiables, boundary around my self-care, non-negotiable, and boundaries around the way I talk to myself and the way that other people talk about themselves around me. Like, we are not gonna shit talk ourselves around Cherry, like, absolutely not. And if I catch myself doing it, I'm like, "We have a talk." Like, but that our words are so important.
Mm, that is so true.
Yeah.
I
What
love
about
those
you?
boundaries. Those are good. For me, a lot of my boundaries right now are relationship based and what I will allow into my life and into my circle and my space. Because that's been a lot of what I've been focusing on. So, not allowing people that will or have taken advantage of me to do it again. Not allowing conversations to continue whenever they've crossed the line, or at least speaking up whenever they've crossed the line. Also, eating. A boundary for myself. I've been really bad about not paying very much attention to my eating schedule, and so I'll just completely forget. And um, yeah, making sure that I eat and get enough protein in a day and drink enough water has been a really big boundary for me.
Alright. Good, good. Those are important boundaries to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yes, eating,
Oh,
water, very important.
and also work. Work has been a really important boundary because I mean, ever since I've switched to work from home, which was COVID, at the beginning of COVID, it was really hard to create a schedule that felt like I had to follow my schedule because what I did at the time at my work was very schedule oriented and my manager was watching to make sure I was always online, and if I wasn't, they'd be asking where I was, and I had very set times. And then I moved into the current role that I'm in 2023, and adjusting to being able to have, like, my own schedule that is very flowy, and my manager is very relaxed and allows me to make up the time later on if I need to. And so that's been quite an adjustment trying to make sure that, like, I feel like I actually accomplished as much work as I'm supposed to get done in the day because sometimes for example, I'm supposed to wake up and work at 7:30 to 4. That's my official schedule. I don't actually get out of bed until about 8:30. I've actually made it that's another boundary of mine. Out of bed by 8:30 because otherwise I will just lay in bed on social media or on my Outlook or on my Teams. Like, I will just sit there and do it in bed because it's comfortable. I don't have to get out of bed.
Sometimes it be like that.
Yeah. But it was getting to be too frequent. So I have really worked on boundaries this year around my work schedule and making sure that I actually accomplish X, Y, and Z by the end of this period of time, not letting it roll on to the next week. And then I just completely forget about it and have to answer to it later.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that. Yeah, big time.
Mhm.
Yes, so working from home, there's a lot of, self-accountability with that for sure.
Mhm. It's hard.
Mhm. It is, and I'm so grateful for my job and, like, the role that I have, and, yeah, I'm very much have been in the same boat, and it's like, "Okay, no, I'm gonna get 75 things, 75 of these tasks done minimum each day. And then, like, however I do that is however I do that, but, like, I need to have that accountability with myself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, and listeners, we'd love to hear from you. How do you hold yourself accountable? What kind of boundaries do you have set up for yourself, and where what questions do you have, like, around boundaries? What feels edgy? This is part 1 of 2 for our discussion about boundaries. I'm excited for our next episode coming up around what boundaries, like, actually sound like, when they get tested, what to do, and then, your specific boundary style.
Mhm.
So
Yes, and leave comments for us, listeners. Make sure to subscribe so that we know that you're listening and you get notifications of our upcoming episode.
and we're now on Apple Podcasts and Amazon, so, we just did that over, like, the last month or so. We're super excited, so really, now you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, I hope you had a wonderful time, and we'll talk to you next time.
Talk
Love
to you
you, listener.
soon. Love you, goddesses.
You can find us on Instagram at Going Goddess Podcast and join our community of radiant rebels in the Goddess Collective on Facebook, a sacred space where we take these conversations even deeper.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey. You're leading it.
Goddess vibes only. And as always, stay radiant
Stay empowered
and keep going, goddess.